What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Spencer Raxter for Lions Nation Unite. First of all, appreciate y'all tapping in. Make sure you smash that like button and subscribe. You can follow Lions Nation Unite on all different social media platforms: Instagram, X, Facebook, YouTube. Go check us out. Go follow, subscribe, like. We really appreciate you. It means more than you know. Lions Nation United is a platform created by Herman to kind of bring Lions content creators from all different walks of life and put them in one big pot and put out some great content. So make sure you tap in with us all off season and then going into the Lions season. Lions Nation United is going to turn up. Appreciate you tapping in and appreciate you being a part of it. All right, so as you guys probably know, the owners' meetings were over this past weekend, and that's when all of the GMs and head coaches and owners, they all get together. And I don't know what they do. Actually, I know they take pictures and I know they talk to the media, but I honestly don't know what it's about. It might just be a big media thing. But there were some great quotes from Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell talking about different aspects of the Detroit Lions team, different aspects of free agency and what they want to do going into the draft. But this one, I'm going to break down a specific clip from Dan Campbell talking about the offensive line, because I know that was a big point of concern with Lions fans over the past year was the offensive line, especially the interior offensive line, because they saw what happened to Graham Glasgow in the playoff game. Now, I personally think that Graham was playing hurt. I've seen Graham play a lot of very good football in a Lions uniform, so I'm not going to take that one game and be like, all right, that's who he is. We need to get better than that. I think going forward, Graham Glasgow will be a very good guard, especially if he's in that right guard spot. I've already said this multiple times, but I think the right guard on the Detroit Lions is the most insulated position in football because you're in between Penei Sewell and Frank Ragnow. So if Graham moves back over to that right guard spot, he'll be a perfect fit. And then you can have Christian Mahogany at the left guard. I think he's ready to go. But that's the big point of contention, is that we're having to move those guys around because Pro Bowler Kevin Zeitler is no longer with the Detroit Lions. That is something that my co-host Easy and a lot of Lions fans were really upset about them missing out on retaining a guy of Kevin Zeitler's level. I think he came in here last year and he played really well alongside, you guessed it, Penei Sewell and Frank Ragnow, but I'm not freaking out at that. They have some guys set up. They have guys that they drafted, guys that they like in those spots, and guys that have worked very well for the Lions in those spots. That right guard spot might still be a point of contention. I think that Christian Mahogany is ready to go. I think he is a starting caliber offensive lineman in this league, and I think he will be the Lions' starting guard next season. Now, whether it's the left side or the right side, that's for them to find out. Smarter guys than me will figure that one out. And I'm comfortable with Graham Glasgow, but I know a lot of Detroit Lions fans aren't. Dan Campbell took to the media to talk about his offensive line position and where they sit. Here's what he said.
Season we like to know he's battle through some things. What's your confidence level that Graham can rebound 1.5?
Yeah, well, look, Graham, we know where Graham is at. You know, every year, certainly, you know, you play that position and it's a year later, you know. But Graham's somebody that we still value because he's got versatility, you know.
So first point right there, you hear him say that Graham, it's another year, right? It's another year for Graham Glasgow, meaning he is getting older, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it also is a factor of those injuries that are consistently piling up. I think he was playing injured last year. I think that was a big part to him kind of slowing down at the end of the year, that being Graham Glasgow. And Dan's made the biggest point right there. People were talking about Graham Glasgow possibly being a cut for the Detroit Lions. No, his versatility is extremely important for what the Detroit Lions want to do. He can play either guard spot. He is the backup center on this team. So Graham wasn't going anywhere. Now, do they want to improve there? Of course, you always want to improve every position. Is it realistic? We'll see. But Dan's keeping Graham, or he's keeping Graham around for a reason. He's an important leader of this team. His versatility is there, and he's still a damn good player.
And look, he did. He started the whole season, other than, you know, whatever that was, game that we let him recover from injury at guard. But he can also play center. I think, you know, people forget that some. Man, he can do an excellent job at center, as a matter of fact. You know, so I think there's there's things that he brings to us that that are not always easy to find. So yeah, we have confidence in him. And there again, the fact that he can play all the positions, man, that lets you breathe easy.
That is, I know I'm pausing and going, that is 3 times that he reiterated that. I know that I've made the joke, on Woodward and stuff like that about versatility being an important part with these guys, but 3 times within what? A minute, not even, that he said the versatility and Graham Glasgow being able to play multiple positions in that interior offensive line is extremely important to him. So these guys love guys that can do everything, and Graham is very important to have for this team. He is your backup center right now. So that is just Dan Campbell stressing that again.
I don't know. I don't know. That's a thought, man. We've talked about that. Do you go back to right, and is it Mahogany left? Is it somebody we drafted? You're going to do your best to let these guys compete and see where they're at. I mean, do we try Manu at guard? That's a thought. So we're going to try to, we're going to try to let these guys compete a little bit and move them around and see what's right, see where we're at. But it's not going to be set in stone.
So there it is. There's Dan Campbell saying it. Plain and simple is they're going to have a competition for that guard spot. Now, I think that Christian Mahogany is locked into one of those starting spots. I think he proved last year he is ready for this. He is built for this, and he is going to be a guy. Graham Glasgow is right now, day one, he'll be your starter. But he talked about 2 names in specifically. Well, one, nameless, just a guard, a guy they draft, because they're going to get an interior offensive lineman with Frank aging, with Ragnow aging, with Graham aging. They're going to get a piece on that interior offensive line. So he said, is it that guy? Does he earn the start in camp? Does Giovanni Manu earn a spot there? That was intriguing because, as you know, Giovanni Manu is the freakish dude last year they drafted out of British Columbia that's built like a refrigerator with legs, and he is one of the most athletic players on this Detroit Lions roster. Him playing guard, I know that people are like, oh, he's built like a tackle. He's built like a tackle. Let me look it up real quick just so I can get his exact stats. But he was drafted to play tackle. He was brought in here after playing tackle. He is 6'7", 352 pounds. And this guy runs a sub 540. What was his 40 time? 4.940 at 6'7", 352 pounds. That's insane, right? He also had like a 35-inch vertical jump and like a 10-foot broad jump. This guy is just an absolute freak athlete. We saw a guy that was drafted to be a tackle that was freakish size, even for tackles, and had played tackle his whole career, step into guard for the first time last year on a Super Bowl winning team and perform at a high level. And that was Mekhi Becton. So you don't really need to have like that, 6'2" guy. You can put a big monster in there if he is agile and athletic like Giovanni Manu. He would be insane pulling from that guard spot. And could you imagine that right side of the offensive line with Manu and Penei Sewell out there? Are you kidding me? You get those 2 guys in front of a Jahmyr Gibbs or Sam Laporta or Jamison Williams. Good luck for anybody trying to get to those guys. So Giovanni Manu, although I think that one is the least likely, I think that is a very big possibility of happening. They gave him snaps at it last year. This is a team that we saw it, whether it was Ennis Rakeshaw getting snaps in the slot, whether it was Jack Campbell playing actual time in the Sam linebacker role, whoever it was, they like getting their best players on the field in any way possible. So if getting Giovanni Manu on the field means that they're going to play him at guard, they're going to play him at guard. And like I said, you look at what Mekhi Becton was for the Eagles last year. Can Giovanni Manu be that for the Detroit Lions? A big body guy drafted to be a tackle. Can he go out there and earn snaps at that guard spot? I don't think it's too far-fetched if we see Giovanni Manu next year, that it's at the guard spot. He is athletic. He is a freak. He can get out in front of running backs, tight ends, whoever out on the outside, and look out if he's coming to block you. Now, that is a new position that he's got to learn, but what was he doing last year other than studying the playbook and seeing how these professionals act in the NFL space? Giovanni Manu is an absolute certified freak, 7 days a week. Pause. And I expect him to get some snaps in this Lions team. That's why when they brought back Dan Skipper, I love Dan Skipper. Don't get me wrong. I love Dan Skipper. I think he's a great signing, but I thought that the natural progression for Giovanni Manu would have been to be that swing tackle next year, because I do believe they're trying to groom him to take place of Taylor Decker when he eventually retires. So I figured like the natural progression for him would to be play in that Dan Skipper role where you're the extra tackle, you go out there, that swing tackle spot, and you learn that way. But maybe they're liking him at guard. Maybe they think they could get some snaps for him at guard. I would not be surprised if you see him out there at guard at all with his athleticism, with his ability to run in the open field, and his overall nastiness. Giovanni Manu, even though he's 6'7", 350, he could play guard for the Detroit Lions. Look at what Mekhi Becton did with the Eagles. It's not impossible. Now, there are other options on this team. I think your backups are pretty well set. You re-signed Coyote Iosika to be that backup interior offensive lineman. I'm very happy with that. I think every time Yodi was called upon, he played at a high level for the Detroit Lions. So I'm glad they brought him back, a guy that knows the team, guys that knows the playbooks, guys that knows this city, a guy that likes it here. I was happy to see them re-sign him. I think he's a solid backup piece for that offensive line. But the other one was Dan Campbell saying maybe it's a guy we draft that plays that guard spot. So they're going to draft a guy, and I think it's got to be within the first 3 rounds. Personally, I would like Tate Ratledge out of Georgia. I think he is a Dan Campbell guy. Like, if you see the power mullet and the dirt stash and just how nasty he is when he's blocking, he has great hips. He doesn't get beat very often. He is very good in pass blocking, and he is nasty in the run game. I think Tate Ratledge would be a good pick in that 3rd round if you can get him there. But that's what it's going to be next year. I personally think that Christian Mahogany is locked into one of those spots. I don't think he's going to have to battle with anybody, but you know how this team works with those offseason battles. Whoever looks the best is going to get the spot. It doesn't matter what you did last year. Doesn't matter how much you're getting paid. Doesn't matter who you are. Whoever wins this spot in camp will win the spot. And you have 2 guard spots essentially open for business right now to go between Christian Mahogany, Graham Glasgow, whoever they draft, and Giovanni Manu. Those are the 4 players that Dan Campbell mentioned in that little segment. So I would not be surprised to see it be Graham Glasgow and Christian Mahogany as your day 1 starters at guard. But you never know. Maybe they draft another stud. Maybe they really want to get Giovanni Manu on the field as much as possible. I'm pretty comfortable with it either way, honestly. I know that Christian Mahogany or Graham Glasgow will be able to hold down that spot, whichever spot they're at. And whoever's on the right side, man, you have such a welcome to the NFL. Here's 2 all-pros on both of your sides. So we'll see what happens in the draft, and we'll see what happens in the regular season. But if I had to call it right now, I think your starting guards week 1 for the Detroit Lions, call it chalk, call it what you want, are going to be Christian Mahogany and Graham Glasgow. Now, if Giovanni Manu goes out there and has an absolute elite training camp and goes out there in the preseason and is crushing people and wrecking dudes, he could take that spot. That would not surprise me at all. I do believe we're going to see meaningful snaps from Giovanni Manu next year. I just don't think it's going to be week 1. But you got a lot of options. Dan Campbell said it there himself. Your 4 options for those 2 starting guard spots per Dan Campbell at the coaches and owners and GM meetings, whatever you call them. Christian Mahogany, I think a lock. Graham Glasgow, I think a lock as well. That's the one maybe. Dan likes him as backup center and rotational guy, maybe. Then you got, he said, whoever we draft, so expect them to get an interior offensive lineman early, and Giovanni Manu, which Lions fans should be excited about. So we'll see what happens, but as of right now, like I said, I'm going Graham, and I'm going Mahogany. Appreciate you guys tapping in. Make sure you smash that like button and subscribe. I'm Spencer Raxter. This is Lions Nation Unite. We'll be back giving you content all weekend. Have a great weekend. Can't wait for Lion season to get here. Get some merch, Kings of the North merch, LionsNationUnite.com. You can get a ton of good stuff there. Make sure you go support the boys, buy some merch, like the stream. Appreciate you tapping in. Peace.